Hello, my name is Bruce Tanis. I'm the CEO of Connect for Commerce. Welcome to the Canadian Small Business Tips series, where we interview experts, entrepreneurs, and those who've been there and done that. It's my hope that through this series and through our blog, we will provide real-world experiences to help you solve problems in your business.
Okay, today we're discussing commercial real estate with Lori Suba about the value of a commercial real estate professional can bring to your search for the perfect property for your business. Lori is president and broker at Scout Real Estate Ltd in Calgary. She has a wealth of experience, including being an independent broker, working with a developer and their leasing department, and working for an international commercial real estate firm. Lori, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me on, Bruce. I really appreciate it. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I know you've been busy having just moved into a new office space for your own business.
That's true. I did. Yeah, just did the move myself.
Awesome. So first, before we discuss the value of a commercial real estate professional, I wanted to ask you what you learned from your own search for a space for your business.
Yeah, it's funny. I was joking with another commercial real estate broker last week and said, I think every broker should have to coordinate an office move just to understand all of the elements that go into the process. So, leasing an office space and coordinating a move, there's just so much more than finding the right space. You have to think of things and consider things such as sourcing furniture and equipment and coordinating contracts for security, IT, changing addresses, stationery. The list is endless. And going through that process for me, Bruce, it really reconfirmed the importance of giving yourself enough time to work through that process. It takes time to secure insurance certificates, much longer these days than it certainly has in the past. So thankfully, time was on my side. I had enough time. I had lots of time to work through it. And I found that really helped the process a lot.
I know we've discussed that before off camera, but you've said that that's your number one pet peeve is that people don't give themselves enough time to do all the due diligence and all the extra work. How much time is enough, do you think?
Well, you need, it's not days. It's not days. It's not even, weeks. I would suggest that, it depends, of course, on the scope and scale and what you're doing. If there's a build out that's required on, for new space, you have to factor in enough time. We're seeing significant delays in terms of getting the necessary approvals for the development permits on the city side, change of tenancy side. The city is taking almost twice as long as they have in the past. So, if you have a build out or you may have a build out, I would assume sort of that 10, 12 week time frame, to have that all organized and completed. So, working backwards, you should be looking at this well in advance of your lease expiry. Call it 6-12 months to give yourself enough time so that you're not scrambling and under the gun, right? Because that's the last place anyone wants to be when you're trying to negotiate a contract. You do not want to be in a spot where or settling, quite honestly, on space that may not be ideal, but it's available. So I think the biggest thing that business owners can consider is just making sure you have enough time. Now, I know it's really tricky these days with the state of the market. There's so much uncertainty in terms of the business and what you might need and what the world is going to look like even. So it can be really challenging, but if you're able, the more time, the better. I think it makes a big difference.
I think you kind of alluded to this in your previous answer, but most viewers have maybe rented or bought a house. How does commercial real estate market differ from the residential marketplace from a buyer's perspective?
Well, there's a few differences. One thing that's different for the commercial side, there's not a centrally housed MLS, a one-stop shop for all availabilities. So that's one thing, you know, in talking to business owners, that's one thing that they find most challenging. It's just, how do you find the space that you're looking for? I mean, there's signs all over when you drive around, there's online platforms, there's certainly a wealth of knowledge or a wealth of information that's out there, but trying to actually figure out, you know, what makes the most sense and what's available is challenging on the commercial side. The other thing that's different, I'm sure everyone has been on MLS and can see clearly what the asking price is for those homes. And that's a little bit different from the commercial side. So commercial, especially in terms of leasing, often it will just say market rents. And so I know that's another factor that, you know, business owners struggle with a little bit. What is market? And of course, it can depend on many factors like the lease term and occupancy. And if you need the space built out, you need the landlord to provide an allowance. All of that factors into what the rental rate might be. But it can be a bit challenging for tenants to get a handle on what buys what, or what's market, or, you know, what is this actually going to cost, you know, on a monthly basis for me. So that's sort of the key differences that I can see, Bruce, in terms of residential and commercial.
Yeah, I think having leased a few places myself, that is a little daunting, not knowing going into the negotiation what is the market rate. And
Right.
It's also a little different in the sense that it's per square foot, usually, as opposed to you know, an overall space. You know,
Yes.
when you rent an apartment, for instance, it's $500 a month or $1,000 or whatever it is.
Right.
Whether it's it might be $25 a foot or $50 a foot or whatever it is. So, and then it's not even done there, because that's the rent, not the other costs.
Yeah, exactly. So operating costs roll in, and it's, you know, calculated on a per square foot per annum basis. You raise a great point. So you kind of have to do the math. This is the amount annually that is the commitment. Then work it back. What does that mean monthly? You know, there are instances on the commercial leasing side where it'll be call it a gross rent basis. And we're seeing that more and more, especially on the sublease side, where there may be limited term. You know, it might be $3,000 a month, and they'll say gross. And so that just means that's kind of your all-in monthly cost. But for the most part, you're right, Bruce. It's calculated with your net rent or basic rent plus your operating cost times your square footage to get the annual expense. And then you have to kind of work the math backwards.
And for our listeners, if you're having a problem with some of these terms here, we do have on our website some definitions of the different terms, including triple net lease and gross lease and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So how have services that provide commercial listings, such as Connect for Commerce, changed the way that a business might work with a commercial real estate agent?
Right. So now, like with these, you know, Connect for Commerce or other marketing platforms, the information is readily available so people can look online and find options. So some businesses opt to conduct their search that way. So they may search via these third-party sites like yourself and have a look and see what's out there and what's available. Some may do drive arounds and have a look based on the area that they'd like to be in, and calling off signs. That's another way. Some businesses opt to engage a real estate broker at the onset to conduct the search on their behalf. So it's changing the way, you know, people are looking at real estate. Certainly in the past, this information wasn't as readily available to the market. You know, there, like I said before, there is no MLS really for commercial. And so in the past, you know, online platforms didn't exist. And so it was really tricky. So I think it's making it easier for people to do searches themselves based on their criteria and find, you know, potential solutions. It can be a starting place. That's my caution, because, you know, if it's on one site, it doesn't mean it's going to be every option. And so it can be, you know, it can be a bit of an opportunity to miss out on options. Sometimes you have to, especially if you need to do a really fulsome search, it helps to engage a real estate professional to help you with that. So.
Okay, fair enough. How is a commercial agent typically compensated?
Yeah, so commercial real estate agents are compensated very similar to residential real estate agents, to be honest. So when you think about selling your house, it's the seller that pays the commission. So if you're, the buyer of a home, the seller will compensate your real estate broker and the listing real estate broker. So the seller pays the fees, similar in terms of commercial real estate. So when we look at, leasing scenarios, especially like the sub-landlord and landlord will pay the real estate commissions. So if you're a tenant that's coming in and taking space or negotiating space, the commissions for your agent, your commercial broker, are compensated through the sub-landlord or landlord.
So typically, the buyer or the leaser is not having to put out out-of-pocket money for
Exactly. That's a really important consideration, and a lot of business owners actually don't know that. It's sort of I wish it wasn't an industry, secret. It's certainly not meant to be a secret. But I think a lot of folks just don't appreciate or realize that there are no out-of-pocket expenses for them to engage a commercial real estate broker to work on their behalf. So I think a lot of times business owners might think, geez, this is going to be a cost to engage somebody to help find a space for my business. And that's not the case. So there's not an out-of-pocket that they have to pay to engage brokers. Typically, it would just be compensated once a deal is completed. That's the other thing. So, if you're a sub-landlord or a landlord, the real estate commissions aren't paid until there is a deal that's done. So I could market a space, for example, on a lease basis or a sublease basis, and we may not like the offers that come in. The landlord or sub-landlord may not want to move ahead with a deal. And in that case, there would be no fee payable. So fees are payable upon completion of a lease transaction once the deal is done.
Okay, that makes sense. How is the search for a lease property, though, different than if you were planning to purchase a commercial property?
Right. So the search itself is probably not all that much different. Obviously, your search parameters, you need to consider whether you're buying or leasing, like the size, what area you're looking to occupy, location, any special criteria that you need to consider. So it could be if you need loading or you want to be in a retail strip center in this space and I need, this type of exposure. That process is similar whether you're leasing or purchasing. Purchasers, though, need to take a few additional steps early in the process, such as speaking to a lender to understand financing and what that financing will look like. And another thing that purchasers might want to consider, and I've had discussions with groups about this, do you want to be a landlord yourself, or are you looking to purchase a property where you would be the sole occupant? So that's another thing that's a little different. Obviously, that does not weigh in when you're leasing space. Often, tenants will want to know who's my neighbor and what does that look like. But if you're purchasing an asset, do you want to be a landlord yourself and manage the lease up of any vacant spaces or manage, that asset? That's something that you need to consider as well.
I think that's a very good question. And for a business owner, I think we did an article on Connect for Commerce about that. And a couple things that come to mind, do you need that extra cash flow as a landlord to afford the building? That might fall into that decision-making process. And the other is for the owner, what is your long-term investment situation? Like, if you're a mature business, maybe the money should be spent more on commercial property versus into the business. If you're a growing business, it might be better to lease first and then maybe look to buy later because you might get more value out of operating. So, it's a very valid and a good question that you're asking right off the bat on that one particularly.
Very interesting. Yeah, for sure.
As a potential tenant or buyer, what are the main advantages of using a commercial real estate professional such as yourself?
Okay, I'm super biased, Bruce, but I know that commercial real estate professionals, we do this work day in and day out. It literally is our day job. So we have a firm understanding of the market, the players, so landlords, properties, opportunities, what constitutes a fair deal. We have tools in the toolbox to support tenants in terms of, ensuring that no stone is left unturned, in the search process and also in the negotiation phase too. So I think having someone who understands the process and can provide you with professional advice and support to achieve real estate objectives is invaluable. It's like, I don't know if I was a business owner, well, I am a business owner, but if I was a business owner that did not specialize in commercial real estate, I would hire somebody to help me find the best solution and to negotiate the best deal.
And I wonder, as a business owner, there's always a call on your time. And, having somebody who's on your team in the sense, as a commercial realtor, looking out for that part of it or helping you with that part of it has got to be worth, its weight in gold as well.
Totally. It's a lot of time, Bruce, to, find the right solution. And I know I've had many business owners reach out who have, in frustration, because they have been trying to do the search themselves and call off signs. And sometimes they get a response and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they don't know, really what the answers might mean for them. And they can find that process daunting and frustrating. And I just think you have so much as a business owner. Time is a limited resource, and you need to focus on, making your business successful. So, spending time and energy to try to find, an option in a sea of options, you're so much better off just to have somebody do that search for you. Understand, because brokers will quiz business owners, or really should, to understand what are the criteria, what are the key, drivers for that business. Where do they need to be? What does the budget need to be? What's important to that business? Is it a location that they need to be in? Are there certain, things within the space that they need to have to be function well? So there's all of that needs to go into it. And so brokers really will gather all that information and then look at what they know. So they know the market and find the right solution. And it's a much more efficient process.
I totally get when I hear the enthusiasm in your voice of all these things, that, this is the area where you bring your A game. So
yes. Yeah, for sure.
When negotiating a lease, is there an advantage to using an independent agent that doesn't have the listing? Do you think that that's important? Or I know that you are a listing agent and also, a buyer's agent. Yeah. Do you see a conflict there when you're got both sides, or is it better?
There can be. Yeah, there can be. I always think having someone working exclusively on your behalf eliminates potential conflicts of interest, and it ensures that you have somebody advocating on your behalf to secure the best possible deal. So I do think that is definitely an advantage to have somebody in your court. When you engage a broker, they seek to understand your requirements. Like I said, they want to leverage their knowledge of the market and options available to find the best solutions for you. So when you're calling off a sign, or you're doing one-off reach outs on a particular listing to that listing broker's job is to share information about that particular listing with you. They don't do a deep dive. What else is out there? What else could we uncover based on your needs? So I think having somebody in your corner, like I said before, it's invaluable to have somebody working and advocating on your behalf.
Okay. Do you have anything further you'd like to add?
Without, sounding like I'm beating a dead horse, Bruce, I think engaging a broker who's active in the market is a super smart move for businesses looking to find the best options for their needs. Businesses trying to comb through options like we talked about earlier without an industry expert can mean that they miss out on opportunities, and they could potentially negotiate less favorable deal terms. So my question is, why wouldn't you want to have somebody in your corner supporting your business needs?
Well, we're well wrapped up, and I sure appreciate you talking with us. We've been talking with Lori Suba from Scout Real Estate today about commercial real estate. Thanks, Lori, for sharing your insights and expertise with our viewers.
Thanks so much for having me on, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today. To connect with experts, buy or sell a business, find the perfect space for your business, or to learn more about how to grow your business, check out our website at connectforcommerce.ca.